Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our discussion of Chapter 13, which deals with small group communication. I just want to highlight a few important things as we go through Chapter 13. Remember that as you begin working on the group project, and especially the group project reflection paper, you're going to have to refer back to some of the information in both Chapter 13 and 14. So even though you don't have to annotate those assignments, it is going to be important for you to read them and pay attention to things that are there. I've tried to highlight those in my annotations as well. So some things to begin with, just understanding small group communication. We oftentimes think of group communication as something that's very negative, but remember that effective groups can be very rewarding academically, professionally, and personally. As we'll talk about a little bit later on, groups can meet a variety of goals, and if they're done well, they help us accomplish those goals or meet those needs that we have more effectively. So instead of focusing on group work as something that's very negative, if we'll treat it as a way to develop skills and communication and interacting and managing group conflict, those sorts of things, it really can have some lasting benefits. Second is that groups can meet a variety of instrumental, identity, and relationship needs. So, instrumental needs we most likely see in a professional environment where you're put in a team or some sort of a group to accomplish some sort of goal. Identity needs, we join groups socially that we identify with. So you may be a part of a Bible study group, or you may go to Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, or groups like Weight Watchers that offer different types of support. And we do that for identity needs. Also, relationship needs. So we'll join groups that help us develop relationships. If we're having a luncheon with, several other stay-at-home moms or something like that, is we're part of a group that we need to meet a relationship need. Task-oriented groups are usually formed to solve a problem, promote some sort of cause, or generate ideas. And then relational-oriented groups are formed to promote interpersonal connections between people. Section 2 of Chapter 13 goes through the different stages of small group development. The first one is forming. In that group, in that stage, your group is getting to know each other. You're trying to reduce some uncertainty amongst yourselves, and then you're setting the groundwork for what the goal of the group is or what you need to accomplish. The storming phase of small group development is usually where the most conflict occurs. As people begin to complete their roles, they have to negotiate exchanges between other group members. So maybe, I'm working on the budgeting aspect of this project, you're working on the promotion of the group project. There may be some conflict there that we need to identify and work through. In the norming stage, practices and expectations become normalized. So that means that we have a very good idea of how we work, how we deal with conflict, what our process and procedures are. And usually because of that, it increases both productivity, so we're working towards achieving the goal, and it increases cohesion, so we're working together well and maybe forming some stronger interpersonal bonds. Performance is just the natural extension of that, so it's working together smoothly to achieve the goal. And then the last part of small group development is the adjourning stage, and this is when the group dissolves. Sometimes that happens naturally because the task that we've set out to accomplish has been completed, and so there's no longer a need for the group. It can mean that there's no longer a lack of, or there is a lack of support. So you go to a group several times and nobody's showing up, so it may be that that group dissolves. Also can be caused from external or internal issues. If there's lots of conflict in the group, maybe a reason that the group dissolves, there's some external factors that can affect that as well. Some things that chapter 13.3 looks at in terms of small group dynamics that you want to be aware of. The first is there's a lot of group conformity pressure, and so sometimes we see groupthink that happens there, and that's definitely something excuse me, that you are going to want to avoid. And then there are different types of conflict that occur in groups. The first is procedural conflict. So it means that there's conflict about how a group should do something. So how do we make a decision on which product to pick? How do we determine how to do whatever process we've been assigned to do. And then substantive conflict is a little bit harder to work through. It's because there's differing beliefs, attitudes, opinions on the purpose or the task of the group. So you don't disagree on how it should be done, but you're really disagreeing on what should be done in and of itself. And so that's really where there's a lot of conflict that can occur, and several times we see groups split in a variety of directions if they think that what the group should be doing are very different things. And then interpersonal conflict is conflict between different members of the group. So it could be personality differences or frustrations with how either others interact with one another. So that's basically chapter 13. Again, group communication is something that's going to be very important. While you may not be assigned group work per se, like you are in the classroom, you're going to have to work with a variety of groups and teams in your professional, academic, and personal environments. So if that's skills that you can learn to develop, it's going to help you later on. If you have any questions about chapter 13, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thanks.